Washougal City Council Workshop Meeting. Rose, could you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Boger,
Here.
Councilmember Freeman,
Here.
Councilmember Greenlee,
Here.
Councilmember Lindsay,
Here.
Councilmember McDaniel,
Here.
Councilmember Shoemaker,
Here.
Councilmember Plinsky.
I haven't heard from Karen.
Our first item on the agenda is for any members of the public that would like to address the council. Okay, seeing none, we will move to new business. Community Development Department, the Schmid-Columbia River Development Agreement.
There she is.
Mitch. And let the record show that Councilmember Polinsky is now in the room.
Okay, I just wanted to bring you up to speed. This may seem very familiar to you. We went over this back in January of this year, but ran into some allegations, if you will, of that we weren't on the right path, but all that has been worked out thanks to the heavy lifting of the applicant, that all those issues are resolved, so we're ready to bring this forward to you again at this time. The Schmid Development Agreement would vest the subject properties to the development standards in place as the date of the agreement, and the city would receive an easement for public access trail across the properties. And here are the properties along the Columbia River. You can see on the east end is Washougal River Road, and that is Steamboat Landing, that area. And then the trail itself would connect at Steamboat Landing in this location down here, and then run along the north side of the properties down to, and eventually we'll be able to extend along A Street. You'll note in the DA there is on the exhibit as well that the final positioning of that trail will be determined at the time that we go in there and start doing that work in order to preserve as many trees as possible and make sure we get the path going exactly where we want it. But at least this gives us a visual representation of where the actual, or a trail would be within that area. So on the agenda tonight under consent, this item is there to have you make a motion to set the public hearing for September 9th at 7 p.m. to consider the development agreement between the Schmids and the City of Washougal.
Paul?
On the map here, there's this little bitty slice.
Yep.
What's that?
It's just it's actually a separate property that's owned by the Schmids. It was actually, I think, a remnant of the original short plat they left, but it's another tax lot.
So this is not this is the existing property line.
Yes.
It's not the development agreement.
That the development agreement would cover that entire portion of property, all those lots.
But so those lot lines stay in existence unless they petition for a lot line change? Or
Boundary line adjustment, yeah, well, they actually did do a boundary line adjustment. They applied for it, we approved it. I don't believe they've executed that yet, and there's really no necessity for them to execute that at this time. But the agreement itself is stipulated that it covers all those properties under their ownership.
And so my understanding is that this would stay as R115,
Correct.
and what are the permitted uses? Obviously, single family, but how about condominiums and things like that?
Which is residential. The part of the agreement that between the neighbor and the Schmids that they worked out was a specific use agreement that it could only be for single family, and
disappointed.
for it includes accessory dwelling units, mother-in-law units, and that.
But no.
No kind of multi-family or.
Yeah, I know we don't call condominiums multifamily, but no condominiums. All.
Nope. It'll be single family.
Okay, all right.
Was
thank
that
you.
their request, or is that?
That was part of the agreement of between the neighbors.
I'll just note publicly that I'm disappointed that I had hoped that.
Well, I mean, it kind of bothers me that someone gets a veto power over someone else's use of their property. But if I don't want to tread into an area that probably was the subject of delicate negotiations.
And as a negotiation that the city wasn't part of, so it's important to know that
Right.
that we
I know.
weren't party to any of that. That
Right.
was what they agreed to.
Right.
Dave?
As you mentioned, this was a dispute which got rather intense at some points. I'm glad to see the legal profession here in Washougal is up to the task of resolving all that, bringing everybody to the table. Everybody's all agreed. Great.
Yeah,
Nice
well,
going.
like I said, that was the result of the applicant's heavy lifting. That wasn't anything on our part.
Well, I'd like to thank the legal profession here in Washougal because I think they did a great job. The issues were contentious.
Mm-hmm.
Ending canvas.
Now, where would the trail run again?
If you slide 4, which is actually up on the screen, the dark line is the proposed trail location, and again, the exact location it may meander through this area. We're
Right.
looking at it, so how we would protect as many trees as we could.
So it would connect at Steamboat Landing.
Correct.
To Highway 14. And
Yes, and then
backside.
basically it would, from that point west, it would be along A Street until such time that it gets to the port property, and then the port doing their trail development, it would connect in there into
How
that
soon do you
waterfront.
think that could be put into effect or into place?
This?
The trail, the trail system.
Um,
the trail.
I don't know how soon we'd be ready to move on that. I think we've been working on this for at least a year now, so.
Because I walked down there and it'd be kind of nice.
Yeah, it will be, and I think it's one of those things. This is the last piece that we need to connect east and west with everything in there. So,
And just to be correct in this, the trail never goes onto Highway 14.
right.
Yeah, it goes towards it though. I mean, not all the way to Highway 14, but it kind of goes in that direction from the river.
Yeah.
Right.
Depends
if I
on
might
where
just
we end up citing it.
add a little bit. At one point, I don't know whether there was actually a grant application made, but I know that there was a grant application in process under what's called MAP 22, which is a federal highway grant system. One of the problems with this trail alignment is that if you look at the far east end of it, which is just west of where you come into Steamboat Landing on Washougal River Road, that bank is very steep and very rocky and very close to the highway. So the best solution is probably a boardwalk of some sort that's cantilevered or supported. And that was what the grant application was being worked on. And so, I don't know how much money was being asked for, but the minimum amount on those MAP 22 grants is about $60,000. So it's a significant amount of money to build that trail. And until we get a grant, it seems unlikely.
Okay.
I think the first step, though, is having the ability to put it on the
The
record.
development agreement.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Have you talked to the residents along A Street to see what they feel about a trail in down their street?
Short of,
It's-
our discussions when we're working on the park's capital facility plan, but no one was really focused on, cared about the Columbia. They were more concerned with Washougal.
Other questions, comments? Mitch, thank you. Carolyn, was there anything you wanted to add in there? Okay. Okay, moving to finance. Interlocal agreement with the school district. Dave?
Thank you, Mayor. Council, I'm going to handle this one. In your packet is a draft interlocal agreement between the city and the school district regarding the new turf field that they've had installed. As you'll recall, in your approval of the 2013 budget, you appropriated $10,000 out of the Park Impact Fee Fund to support this project. And we indicated to you at the time that there were some administrative things that would need to be done before we could remit the $10,000 to the school district. The first was that we needed to update our parks plan so that we would appropriately acknowledge that facility in our plan. And as you recall, the parks plan was updated recently, and to do a number of different things, one of which was to make sure that we properly acknowledged that facility in the parks plan. The other issue is we need to have an interlocal agreement in place with the district per advice that we received for using the park impact fee funding to ensure that the facility is available for use by the public, but it can be subject to the reasonable restrictions that the district would impose. So this document seeks to be that interlocal agreement, so that it gets all that in place and would allow us to make the final remittance of the funds to the district. They've already installed the turf field. As you know, it has a life of 10 years, and they are putting away funds every year. I spoke with the superintendent today. They're putting funds away every year so that in 10 years the plan would be to be able to replace it again. So that's what they're hoping to do. The mayor wanted the city to be a partner with the district in that, and that's why forwarded this funding request, and I believe why the council approved that as part of the budget. A little late breaking news on this. We will not ask for approval of this interlocal agreement tonight on your regular council meeting agenda. There's a couple of areas in the document that we just need to clean up and get consistent with different language that we need. In working with the school district, we weren't able to get that done in time for tonight. So we'll bring it back once we get that squared away. But the foundation for the agreement is fine, and we'll get that moving forward and then finalize those clarifications. I did want to mention that the first football game on the new field is a week from Friday, on Friday the 6th. And at that meeting, the district and the city would like to be able to acknowledge this partnership in some way. We won't have had approval of the interlocal agreement per se. We have your budget approval for the expenditure. We just have to tie this knot. So I'm not sure exactly what the program will be, but there'll be an acknowledgement of our partnership, and I think that's a good thing moving forward. So I just wanted to make sure there weren't any questions or any red flags about this issue before we continue to embark down that road.
Dave? Actually, there are. First of all, I have to compliment the mayor and the administration and the staff for coming up with this. This is a great idea. It's the sort of thing that I like to see us do, cooperative agreements. Some of my concerns, and we have a school district rep here tonight, perhaps she could address some of these. Can you clarify the public use of facilities? How's that going to happen?
The school board has a policy, I forget exactly what they call the policy, that prescribes their philosophy about the use of school district facilities for school district and community patrons. And so it articulates that the facilities are available for use. It sets a prioritization for the groups, and it sets a fee schedule. So it includes the stadium and the field, it includes other fields, it includes their cafeteria, and it includes all of their facilities. So they have a very well-documented policy that they use.
That's an unavailable basis, as available basis.
Yes, I mean, they have just like we would with any of our facilities that folks can reserve. If it gets reserved and then someone else wants to reserve for the same time, they wouldn't be able to do that. So there's probably some first come, first serve. There are different categories of folks. If it's a for-profit type of scenario, they get a different fee schedule from the district than educational groups or social service or charity groups. Community sports teams fall into another category, but all of them are provided for As you can imagine, the district, just like we with our facilities, there's a balance of the stewardship of those facilities, the maintenance of those facilities, and making sure that they're available for the uses of the school district as well as the community, and finding that balancing point. So it's not unfettered, unrestricted access to the field, and nor should it be. It is managed by the district, yet there's reasonable access for the public. So I think that's how that works.
You've answered almost all my questions with that soliloquy. Thank you. The last one is, do we actually have the resources to keep up our end of the bargain on maintenance?
We don't have the maintenance the school district does by the agreement.
Okay, I didn't pick that up in there.
Right. I should mention that the focus of this agreement is regarding the turf. There's another little portion of the agreement that just acknowledges in a more formal way the informal sharing of resources that we currently have. Small stuff around our equipment and on our personnel. We partner with them at a couple different events and doing a couple of different things, and we've just done that on an informal, ad hoc basis, if you would. This just more formally recognizes that we have that partnership. It doesn't commit us to do anything specific, but it acknowledges that we have that relationship with them. That's something that the mayor also wanted to be a little bit more specific on and a little more pointed about. So the agreement sets us up for an appropriate use of PIF funds for the turf field, and then is an expression of our partnership in terms of working together to get stuff done in the community without making any specific commitment to any one thing.
And it was that caught my attention. Thank you.
Other questions, comments?
Good morning, Shane, too.
Okay.
Thank you.
So hopefully you can make it out to the game. Hopefully it'll be good weather for the first game on the turf. And at some level in the program, there'll be an acknowledgement of our pending remittance to them, and an acknowledgement of our contribution.
How long does a grass field last?
A grass field?
See,
Depends on weather.
Yeah.
is it weather that drives us to use?
Weather and use.
I know Camas is artificial too.
Right. There's a lot of turf fields becoming very popular, both for clubs and professional clubs, and for school districts around here where the weather, it takes a beating with the rain, and then you're mucking around on it. You have to replace grass fields too, because you do drainage underneath, and over time that gets skunked up, and so you gotta rip it all out and start over. But I don't know how long of a life they have.
And do you have any idea if it's open to the public for exercising and so forth?
I don't believe that it's just, 3 hours every Saturday, the gates open and anybody can walk in. I don't believe it is. No, it is.
I just know that Camas allows public up until noon every day, not weekends, Monday through Friday.
Yep. I'm not aware that Washougal has that policy.
Generally speaking, turf fields, you want to very significantly limit access, especially to the kinds of cleats that can be used on the field. And then the other thing is, having practiced that way on grass fields, if you have a playing field that's grass, you have to have a separate practice field. And most of those separate practice fields turned into soccer fields some years ago.
Okay, any other items on that one? Okay, animal control interlocal agreement.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We had a joint meeting with Camas back in April regarding a couple things, but the animal control agreement was one of those. We fine-tuned the interlocal agreement to bring it up to date with how we're currently doing it, as the old one was, I think, from the 2000s. So, just a little bit old and outdated. So basically, we're bringing this forward tonight. It's the updated version. We presented it to the City of Camas last week at their meeting, and then it will be on consent for their council to sign, I believe, next week, and then we'll have it on our meeting on the 9th. Essentially, it's the same We're still sharing 50% of the cost of the program with them. The differences are, or maybe it's their meeting on the, I might be off a week on their meeting, but. So is it the 4th? Tuesday the 4th is when it'll be on their consent, and then Monday the 9th it'll be on our consent. But essentially the differences are, we upped the capital purchase amount from 1,000 to 5,000 on page 2. And then we updated how we're actually billing for services. It'll be 50% of the program charges, except for the per dog charges that we get charged by West Columbia Gorge. That'll be based on actual city dogs. So the reports that we get from the Humane Society actually break out whether they're a Camas or Washougal dog. So as the program was running last year, we were sharing all dogs at 50% instead of just Camas paying for their dogs and Washougal paying for their dogs. So we made that change. And then we'll also have the revenue that we collect for those dogs on Camas's behalf come off of their invoice, and then we'll invoice them for their true amount owed after everything's taken into consideration.
And all those changes go back retroactively to January 1.
Correct. We had hoped to bring this forward sooner, but it's taken a little bit to get it forward. So we bill them twice a year. So we haven't billed them yet for their January to June charges. We've been waiting to bring this through. So that way we can bill them appropriately and not have them pay for Washougal's dogs.
All the,
Oops, sorry.
Paul?
I'm sorry.
Dave?
Sorry, Paul. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On page 7, item D, does that provision create another Washougal employee? It talks about appointing an administrator.
That would be Chief Mitchell.
Congratulations.
He's behind me.
That answers my question. Thank you very much.
Paul?
On item number 10, Animal Shelter Services, is that all essentially the same as it was?
Is that where it dictates indoor and outdoor? Yes, that's
Yeah.
essentially the same from before.
10, so it's on page 3, 4, 5,
Correct.
6, 7, 6, I guess it stops at 6.
Yes.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you.
Brent?
This is the first time this particular agreement has been before me as a council member, and I noticed that 11B, paragraph 11B, provides that we will euthanize or place for adoption animals not claimed or redeemed within the time set forth within the Camas City Code. Don't we turn around and deal with the West Columbia Gorge Humane Society for a lot of the services here?
That's what
Correct.
the place for adoption is.
Okay. Do we euthanize unclaimed animals?
We
No.
euthanize,
Well,
yeah,
if they're
yeah, we do.
sick, I guess.
If they're sick, if they're too aggressive, it's at the call of the police department.
Okay.
It's not a normal function, though, I'd say. I mean, it's not something that occurs, I don't think, every day.
Okay, I just,
But at the end of the redemption period, the West Columbia Gorge takes ownership of the dog, and then they try to adopt it out or do the best that they can with the animal.
same with cats. Right?
They have a cat shelter, but we do not regulate cats. We only regulate dogs.
We don't regulate cats?
No,
Right.
they are not in our code.
Time to change.
Well, I
Talk to the
think-
chief.
I think cats,
Oh,
I think cats have constitutional rights,
oh, yeah.
so, okay. That's something we might want
Cats
to, we don't, Camas doesn't regulate cats in their code, do we?
No.
We don't even,
No, matter of fact, that's one of the points of contention that we had with the Southwest Washington Humane Society last year, because they wanted us to take under our secondary contract with them all animals, and we said we only regulate dogs. So,
so what do we do with cats, feral cats and things like that? No?
Barbecue.
well, the Humane Society, the Washougal Humane Society actually goes through and has a feral cat program. Southwest Washington is also looking at instituting a feral cat program. in
But the
addition
city's
to
just
that.
not involved in it.
No, they don't bill us for any of that as well. That's just one of the services that they provide to the community. They do take adoptions, they take drop-offs, they take all of that over there. And I think really if push came to shove and somebody had a problem with a cat, I'm pretty sure that our animal control officers would try and do whatever they could with them.
Okay.
We don't leave them high and dry.
You know that in Rome, cats have the
No,
right
I'm
to
just playing with my
live
glasses.
wherever they were born. I thought I'd bring up a little bit of trivia.
That's why they're always under my car, right?
Cats in Rome,
I'm
Rome.
not sure that's a recommendation for Washougal.
Yeah, really.
We already have them.
Other questions on this interlocal agreement? Okay. Moving on to cemetery ordinances. We're covering animals, turf, cemeteries, gardens. We've got it all tonight. Good evening, Suzanne.
Brought my own water this time.
I'm gonna sneak out. Get back as soon as I can. I'm sneaky.
In 2013 or 2012, we approved the budget to install 2 new column-bearing units up at the cemetery as we were approaching our capacity and ability to serve clients. And so this is a product of that project. We're expecting the delivery of our of our niche walls in September or October. So in order to market these for sale, we wanted to be able to extinguish the supply of the existing niche walls. So we decided to keep those rates at the same rate that they are now. And after doing some research on some of the cemeteries around Clark County, we came up with, and it is lower than new rates for the proposed niche, or the new niche wall that's coming in. So just by raising our rates by 100 and for singles and 170 for doubles, we feel that still offers an economical option for the current niche wall so that we can disperse those units. In comparison, it would be current single is $550 and a double is $1,000. The new rate would be $650 and $1,170. And in comparison to Camas, which is our closest rival in the market, they actually have resident and non-resident fees, so their rates are basically $750 and $1,250 for standard, and so that would be comparable to our old niche wall. And the premium would be $900 and $1,500, which would compare to our new niche wall.
This is a one-time fee?
Yes, it's just the purchase. So it's like purchasing a house. It's one fee. You pay it up front, or actually I think you can make payments to that. However, once you're done making that payment, the only thing you would pay for would be opening and closing, and then the niche inscription on the outside. So opening and closing is burial.
Sounds like a bargain to me.
Yeah.
So this just shows the rate distribution for how our fees for these columbarium niches are distributed for capital, perpetual care, operations, and maintenance. So you can see the current rate distribution for single and double, and then how the new rate distribution would also be applied with cost recovery for the loan that we are taking out against the perpetual care fund. And that is it for this topic.
Questions, comments?
Something I don't like to talk about.
Yeah.
It has some finality to it.
I'm good.
We'll get the word out.
Okay, in that case, we're going right to garden plot annual fee ordinances.
Just before we do that, this would be back on the 9th as an ordinance for your consideration.
When you say competition, are we really in competition?
Actually, yes, we have a lot of people that come from Vancouver and say that the rates are too high out there, and so they're looking for a more economical option, so.
Interesting.
I guess what would it be, if you want to be buried in Midtown Manhattan, I guess that would be even more.
Probably more than what should.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say, I think we have a very sweet cemetery
I do too.
up there. It's very well cared for and comfortable.
Nice views.
Uh-huh.
You do a good job.
Well, thank you. I'll let the guys know. They do a good job too. The next item is for community garden plot rate increase. And the purpose of this is to stay ahead of current water rates and to have a little bit of a cushion to pay for some of the incidentals that occur from the community garden, such as eventually fencing. Fencing is going to be an issue. We'd like to maintain decent fencing. We have some maintenance issues out there, water pipes breaking, leaking, and we have just a variety of issues related to community gardens and the people that dwell there. Even dispute resolution we've been involved in. So our current rates are based on square footage, and for low income, the rates are 0.5, I guess that's 5 cents per square foot, which works out to be for a 10 by 20 garden plot is $10 a year. And the standard, which is a little bit more. It's for someone who's not low income or senior. It would be a little bit more than 6 cents, which is $12.50 each year for a 10 by 20 garden plot. And since we established those rates in 2009, we have not changed them. So we're looking to go to a flat fee or flat rate, which would be an increase of only $2 for the low income senior and $2.50 for a standard bed. When we were working on a community garden project with an expert in the area, he said that our rates are extremely low, which is why we're getting people from Vancouver, and actually Portland are coming over too. And we've had a few issues out in the gardens, so one of the topics of discussion at our next board meeting will be to have it open for residents first, so that we can kind of avoid some of those issues that have arisen. So. And then this just goes over some of the costs of the garden. We have plot rentals in 2012 generated $265, and our water bill was $148. So that left about a little over $100 for incidental expenses that are related to the garden. And in 2013 it was, and we're still not done yet, we still haven't completed the year, it's $307 due to a higher turnover this year, and our water bill is $168. So we have a little bit of a cushion right now, but I anticipate that as the year goes on, that will be reduced.
Paul?
My only comment is, I haven't looked extensively in the area, but I agree, the rates seem very low. And if this is the rate that you and the board want to go forward with, that's fine. Just to let you know, I'm certainly comfortable with 15 and 20.
Well, actually, you set the rates, so I mean, you could.
Well, you know,
you could change it if you wanted.
Yeah,
to.
but I don't have daily contact with the people who do this, and your staff too.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think this is a community service, and I don't want to price people out. And on the other hand, if we're drawing people from Portland, I'm not sure that's really what we want to be doing.
Jennifer?
Yes. Suzanne, how high is the demand, and do we usually sell out of the plots?
Hamlock Park is a very high demand garden. It has all of them are rented every year. So Hathaway is a little less known, and we're actually converting that over to raised beds. So we withheld allowing people in while we're under construction right now. So we got a grant for about $2,500 to buy cedar for raised beds. So.
Okay, and what are one more question. The growing season, when do we open it and when do we close it?
It's it's a year round.
Oh, year
so
round.
it's
You allow
from
people to grow
the
year
1st of April until the end of March.
Okay.
So that's our growing season and our rental season. So
What will the prices be on the raised bed garden?
it'll be the same.
Be the same.
Dave?
I agree with Paul.
Would you refresh my memory? Where are these plots located?
There's 24 plots out at Hamlock Park, and we have room to expand out there. And the Hathaway Park plots are to the east of the tennis courts.
Okay,
Or pickleball courts. Those are we have new pickleball courts out there. So
thank you.
Other questions, concerns, comments? Okay. Suzanne, thank you.
That will come back on the 9th also.
Correct, both of these will be back as ordinances to change those fees.
And our second quarter update, sounds like we've had some technical difficulties today. We need to put that one off.
Bring that back.
With that, it brings us to the second opportunity for anyone from the public that would like to comment to council. Everybody's still shy. Okay, under mayor's report, I don't have anything for you for this meeting. Any items from council members? Okay, hearing none, we're adjourned until 7 o'clock back here for our regular